With the exception of football, there is arguably no sport where kicking ability is more important than in Muay Thai. Fighters win or lose by their ability to land kicks and to withstand them. While other skills also play a large part, the swing of the leg and the strike of the foot are as important an element as any. And that raises the question, who among the many all-time great Muay Thai fighters we've seen is the most devastating kicker ever? Your instinct might be to scour the current rankings, but it turns out the hardest kicker in the history of Muay Thai appears in black and white, fighting in a sport that was still mostly unknown to the world in the middle of the 20th century. Join us as we delve into the history books and discover the legend of Apidej Sit-Hirun. But don't get too close, a single kick from this man could be a knockout blow like no other. Background: Thailand in 1941. It was a different world than what most of us know today. Amid the backdrop of World War II, most people were farmers. In the central province of Samut Songkhram, in the fall of 1941, Narong Yen Pratip was born. Little is known about Narong's childhood. He grew up in a mostly agrarian country, caught between warring superpowers. One can easily imagine the young Narong was influenced by the turmoil and uncertainty that surrounded him as a boy. Some sources say Narong may have been as young as 8 years old when he first got involved in Muay Thai. He showed a natural gift for the sport and started competing by the time he was 12. This was not uncommon in Thailand at the time, as local fights presented the chance to win prize money and potentially support struggling families. Narong adopted the name Narong Dej and had his first fight in Ratchaburi, a town near the coast in western Thailand. The scrappy young kid, who already had a reputation as a tough cookie, won that fight. He brought home a grand prize of 30 baht, the equivalent of less than $1. He was thrilled to share the winnings with his family, but to his disappointment, they were not impressed. Reportedly, his stepfather even scolded the young Narong, telling him that fighting for money was no way to make a living. As is often the case, fact starts to blur together with mythology at this pivotal stage in the young fighter's career. The story goes that Narong's stepfather tracked him down at a fight. According to an interview Narong gave many years later, his stepfather even tried to intervene, stepping into the ring and interrupting the proceedings. Amid boos and pleas from the audience, his stepfather eventually relented and allowed his stepson to fight on. Moments later, he watched the young Narong knock his opponent out cold in the second round. Legend says his stepfather was so impressed he had a change of heart right then and there. From that point on, Narong had the full support of his family to continue pursuing a career in Muay Thai. Career takeoff. As Narong Yen Pratip, nicknamed Narong Dej, began winning throughout Thailand's western provinces, he quickly earned himself an additional nickname, the Golden Leg. It didn't come out of nowhere. Even in his early teens, Narong had an attention-grabbing knack for kicks. Hard, swift, and brutally effective. It wasn't just watching his kicks that blew people away, it was hearing them. A well-landed strike from the Golden Leg would create a distinctive smack that echoed around gyms. In 1957, at the age of 16, he adopted the name he would eventually become best known by, Apidej Sit-Hirun. He moved to Bangkok, then is now the epicenter of the Muay Thai universe, and looked to bring his talents to the world stage. Apidej's first documented pro fight happened on Christmas Day, 1959. The 18-year-old faced fellow Thai fighter Pansak Vidichai at the famous Lumpini Boxing Stadium. Apidej knocked Vidichai out in the first round with a high kick to the roar of the largest crowd he'd ever seen. Apidej Sit-Hirun had arrived. The Golden Leg. He opened his career in Bangkok with a 4-win streak. Word spread quickly around the Muay Thai community. There was something different about the kid from Samut Songkhram. Fans simply could not believe how hard this guy could kick. The same stomach-churning feature that had manifested itself in gyms now appeared in full-size stadiums. An ear-piercing smack reverberating around the arena every time the Golden Leg landed a kick. But Apidej did more than just dazzle the crowds with his superhuman leg strength. He was also winning, and winning a lot. In 1962, Apidej won the Rajadamnern Stadium title by decision. At 5'9", 147 pounds, the Golden Leg had fought his way from the fields of rural Thailand to the coveted status of Muay Thai title winner. But now, the responsibility fell on the 21-year-old to defend it. The following year, in 1963, he faced Somphongcharan Muang, a Thai fighter who was hungry to steal Apidej's title. The crowd at Lumpini Stadium was anxious to see a hard-won battle between two preeminent Thai fighters, but the fight only went 2 rounds. Those in attendance that day witnessed something else instead, something truly unexpected and infinitely more unusual. Apidej Sit-Hirun, a man already famous at this point for impossibly powerful kicks, somehow exceeded his own reputation. Whether it was something in his breakfast that day, or just something about the cut of his opponent's jib, he kicked like he had never kicked before. In 2 rounds with leg strikes, he managed to break both of Charan Muang's arms. It was a vicious pummeling. Shortly after the second arm break, the fight was awarded to Sit-Hirun by technical knockout. Technically, his opponent no longer had arms, so it makes sense. Somphongcharan Muang was so damaged both physically and psychologically by the defeat that he literally never fought again. Superhuman Power. The rest of the 1960s proved very good for Apidej. At one point, he famously held 7 titles simultaneously. He was so good even the King of Thailand himself lavished praise, bestowing Apidej the title of Fighter of the Century. He would also later grant Apidej a Lifetime Achievement Award, something no other Nak Muay had or has ever since received. In the 1960s, Apidej Sit-Hirun also proved time and again that he was by far the hardest kicker anyone who knew anything about Muay Thai had ever seen. In the decades that followed, even as the sport grew immensely more popular and successful, this status has still never been revoked. In fact, it's never even seriously been questioned. What was his secret? How did this 147-pound, 5'9" guy break arms and send cracks reverberating around the stadium with his legs? It's a mystery that has plagued and divided fans of the sport for decades. For his part, Apidej never seemed to understand what all the fuss was about. According to him, it was nothing more than practice and proper footwork. He claimed that part of his training regimen was to run 10 kilometers uphill with heavy iron weights on both legs. If that's true, and we have every reason to believe it was, then you get a sense of what Apidej meant by practice. For the rest of us watching from the sidelines in amazement, the explanation also likely has something to do with genetics and coordination. Although it can seem like it, kicking is far from a brute force act if you do it properly. It requires balance, timing, and synchronicity between the leg that swings, the leg that is planted, and the upper body as well. As basketball fans surely know, the greatest leapers aren't necessarily those with the largest leg muscles. Kicking in that sense is no different. Apidej Sit-Hirun had truly extraordinary balance and coordination, which he further perfected through rigorous practice. So, even though he might not look at first glance like the last person on earth you'd ever want to be kicked by, he was. Later career. The golden leg kept on kicking into the 1970s and early 80s. As time wore on, he showed some signs of slowing down a bit, as his typical dramatic wins were more counterbalanced by occasional losses. That said, by the end of his career in the early 1980s, between boxing and Muay Thai, the so-called man of 7 title tees had a staggering total record of 350 wins, 10 losses, and 1 draw. His last ever Muay Thai fight came on July 10th, 1983. The 42-year-old was in Hong Kong. He faced Japanese fighter Yasunori Susta. It was a rare instance where the golden leg fought outside his home country against a non-Thai opponent. Apidej was knocked out by punches in the second round. Sensing his time had come, Apidej began a transition in his career. He became an instructor at a prestigious Bangkok gym called Fairtex. Here, Apidej had the opportunity to share some of the insights and lessons he'd picked up from being one of the best and one of the first Muay Thai stars in modern history. And the students were only too eager to learn. Apidej ended up spending the next 4 decades of his life coaching. He may have never subjected up-and-coming fighters to his insane iron leg uphill running routine. He was notorious for instilling a sense of discipline. Throughout his life, Apidej was fixated on the value of good footwork, and he made young students practice fundamentals for a long time before even letting them think of stepping inside the ring. Over the years, Apidej made the gradual transition from hotshot star to wise Nak Muay elder. Then on April 4th, 2013, the golden leg succumbed to lung cancer. Legacy. In those 72 years, Apidej Sit-Hirun dedicated his entire life, body, mind, and soul to the sport of Muay Thai. In total, the impact of his dedication is hard to overstate. Today, at the Thai National Museum, there is a display just for Apidej. He is seen by many as the ultimate Muay Thai figure, the homegrown hero who came to represent everything the sport stands for. Yet he exists in the same sort of space as bygone-era athletes like Wilt Chamberlain, Babe Ruth, or Pele. No matter how much we'd love to, we'll never see him enter the ring against modern greats like Tawan Chai or Sayan Chai. We'll never know for sure if the sport he helped so much to grow has now evolved beyond his level. All sports and all great athletes, more or less, are subject to this dilemma, the passage of time. What makes Apidej Sit-Hirun so truly remarkable in the context of sports history is that, even today, amid nationally televised MMA broadcasts and a surplus of internet-famous fighters around the world, no one has managed to make kicking a more effective or more devastating tool in their arsenal. If he'd been in his prime in the 21st century, Apidej would have appeared on shows like Sports Science. He would have appeared in viral reels testing which objects he could break with a barefoot kick. But Apidej wasn't born in the internet age, and as such, his legacy remains forever tucked in the mysterious yet ever-intriguing shroud of old-school tapes and enduring stories. There is little doubt that Apidej remains the hardest kicker in the history of Muay Thai. Out of the vastly greater number of people interested in Muay Thai and all the expensive training equipment and modern fitness technology money can buy, there is still nothing like what the Golden Leg managed to do with a steep hill, some iron weights, and a tireless work ethic. The martial arts world owes him a lot, but if there's one thing he should signify more than anything else, it's that the greatest fighters can, and often do, come from humble beginnings and rise to the top through sheer discipline and perseverance.